Welcome to the On the Edge podcast with your host, Scott Groves. I know some amateur authors who have done some fiction works, and if I look them up on Amazon, they've got the 30-page kind of booklet that they did, and then maybe they build up and whatnot. And your first endeavor is this 500-page. I'll just read some of the synopsis for people that might want to check out Ninja Punk's F Off, and we'll put how you titled the F word in here, but it's like punk rock is a repudiation of society, a critique of something shiny at its surface, but corrupt and rotten beneath, right? In Mamarock, New York, Brian Stratton's soul burns amid his lukewarm suburban surroundings. Seeing no escape, he rebels, finding catharsis for his sorrow in the local punk scene. After he sneaks backstage at his favorite band's first concert in the US, he finds the room bloody and I don't know how to say this word, Kasuka Fuma, celebrity by day, ninja for the Yakuza by night, standing over the dead bodies. So basically this music fan, which I think we can all relate to, trying to sneak into a concert before we were 21 years old, finds his favorite band. That would be like me in the late 80s, early 90s, sneaking into the Whiskey A Go-Go, finding Guns N' Roses dead in their green room, and there's a ninja standing over them with a bloody sword. That's a great setup for a novel.
Given Axl Rose's usual habits, I would not be surprised if he had pissed off someone in the Yakuza at some point. Yes. Given Axl Rose how he carries himself, I wouldn't be surprised if he pissed off the Yakuza at some point. Actually, I watched a documentary about their South American tour when they were trying to support the Use Your Illusion album when they were touring through South America.
Yes.
And the cartels almost killed him and stuff like that. Good Lord, man.
Dude, there's a great book, biography. I don't think it's an autobiography because it's like unauthorized, but it's super well researched, called Watch You Bleed, the saga of Guns N' Roses. And if you're like a Guns N' Roses fan, you have to read that book. It's basically the wildness of their first 10 years from formation until about the release of Use Your Illusion. So that whole Appetite for Destruction era, and just these crazy stories of like dumpster diving for food, playing all night, trying to find some girl they could go home with so they could just sleep on a couch. They have, I think, one of the most wild rock and roll stories. But anyway, back to you. Had you published any short stories or taken pen to paper on this, like, kind of this fictional genre before? Or did you just decide, hey, I'm going to write a novel and here's my 500-page masterpiece?
No, I've been writing my whole life, basically. Like, this is my first novel that's been published. I published a comic book. Actually, it's up here. It's called Sons of Yellowstone. This is that guy.
Nice.
It's, by my own admission, not very good. I wrote it about 10 years ago. I rushed it out. I basically self-published it. And I think it needed some more time in the oven. I wrote my first story when I was like 11. I believe I wrote it after I went to my friend's house and I saw the first Blade movie for the first time. And that first Blade movie I thought was the coolest thing ever.
Oh, it's great. It's a great film.
Oh, dude. The opening when this like putsy guy is going to get killed by vampires and he's like crawling for his life and all of a sudden you see Blade's feet and all of a sudden everyone just freezes and stops. That is the coolest intro ever for a freaking character, and I will fight you on that.
What's crazy is like people that are big fans of this genre, just comic books in general or comic book movies, they really think like Batman Begins saved the genre and gave movies the authority to make darker, more complex characters from the comic books. But Blade was like 2 years before that. And it was so freaking good and so dark.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
I mean, like, the comic book genre is weird for me because now if I watch anything by Marvel, I'm just like, I can't take this anymore. And that's the thing with DC too. I feel like it's just gotten too watered down, I feel like. Whereas the main problem with a lot of what's going on right now in comic book films is the interconnected universes, I think, just have to stop. Because I think what's happening is that every line is in reference to something else happening off screen. I'm just like, how about you just talk about what's going on screen? I want to know what's going on in the movie. I don't need to hear about how this thing is going to happen in this movie that you're going to release in 3 years. I want to know what's happening now. How are you feeling now? That's my main problem with it at this point. It's too big.
Yeah. So is there a lot of comic book influence in your book that you wrote? Where would you say you drew your biggest influences or inspiration for the story that you told in Ninja Punk's F Off?
Yeah, so I basically think that my biggest inspiration, and this is going to sound bizarre, but just go with me, is basically the collective unconscious, because that's basically where all stories take place. Where basically Carl Jung had this concept called archetypes, which are basically dream symbols that go beyond the individual dreamer's experience. For instance, if you are falling in a dream, that more or less is your subconscious trying to tell you that you're anxious, things like that. So Carl Jung basically thought that, okay, if all of these things can mean the same thing for all these different people, then clearly there is some connective tissue in our collective unconscious that we are trying to ignore. And basically, he has this really cool quote called, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, you will be forever guided by it, and you will call it fate," or something like that. So basically, I think that the function of every story is to really tell you how to delve down past like the walls of your ego and your self-perception to allow you to get a greater understanding of the universe, let's say. So that's my main influence with fiction writing in general. As far as like more concrete answers into that, I grew up reading a lot of Greek stuff. Like I love Homer. That is like my jam. I love that book.
I've never read it. Like it's been on the shelf and the Audible for years. And I'm like, I know this is one of those classics I'm supposed to read and listen to. And I've just never got around to it.
I think it's first off, it's awesome. I like it a little more than the Odyssey because Achilles vibes with me because like I was somebody who like, you see so many folks who say they want to be like Achilles. And I'm just like, do you want to be like Achilles? Because he ruins his own life in the Iliad, if you know what you're reading. So I think, and that's something that kind of, it frustrates me when I hear a lot of modern fighters and martial artists, they talk about like how, oh, I'm a Spartan or I'm a samurai or I'm this and I'm that. And I'm just like, do you like, you are saying that you are your idea of a samurai, but you're not a samurai and you're not a Spartan and you're not Achilles, because if you were Achilles, then you would have basically, in your own pride, not helped the Greek army and basically caused a chain event reaction that got your best friend killed. Yeah. So
I'm thinking of The Princess Bride right now, where you keep using that word, but I don't think that word means what you think it means. It's like,
So here's the thing. I like The Princess Bride, but this is my one thing with that movie. Do we need the scenes where the grandpa is reading to the kid? Just give me the movie. I don't see why we need to have the scenes where the grandpa is reading to the kid, because I just don't get it. I'm just like, just give me all the cool stuff. Like, I don't like, that was just my thing with that movie. I'm just like, we don't need these scenes. That's my personal opinion, but yeah. But it's a good movie. I do like it a lot.
I did think, I don't know which one came out first, whether it was The Princess Bride or The Never-Ending Story, but I do remember I must have seen, if Princess Bride came out before The Never-Ending Story, I must have seen The Princess Bride on video and not in the theater. I did remember thinking like, oh, is there going to be this moment where Grandpa's, and this is the story of our family or something like that, where like in The Never-Ending Story, he realizes he's part of the story. But yeah, I've never really thought about that before, because when I was a little kid, I looked like Fred Savage. So I was just enamored by the fact that somebody that looked like me was in a movie. But now the next time I watch that, I'm going to have to think a little bit more critically. Oh yeah, did we need the storytelling? Does that actually add to the story, or is that just like a 1980s trope that they were wanting to throw in there?
Yeah, I think it happens in the book too. I've never read the book, but anyway. But yeah, so my other influences, so there's Homer, there's general Greek mythology, there's a lot of comic book stuff. I definitely was a fan of the X-Men as a kid, because I was like, oh, a bunch of misfits who no one likes. That's me. All right, cool.